Okay, so integers, they are numbers, but they're whole numbers. So there's no decimals, okay? But they can be either negative numbers, positive numbers, including 0, okay? So we call them integers. So again, they're only whole numbers, so know that positive, negative, and the 0. So it goes from all the way from negative infinity. Do you guys know what the word infinity means?
It's just repeating itself.
It's more like a number that doesn't end. Okay, so it's like a big, huge number, or like it could be like 10,570,000,000, whatever, right?
It's pi, it never ends, right?
Yeah, but pi has decimals,
Oh,
right?
sure, yeah, this is-
That pi has decimals, but you're right, but without the decimal. Okay, so without the decimal, it's a big, huge number. So it's from negative infinity, which is the smallest negative number that you can have, to the biggest positive number that you can have. As long as there's no decimal, okay, we call them integers.
What's the main purpose for integers? Like doing graphs and charts, or?
Integers is, so when you're counting people, right? People, you can't count them with a half a person, right? Or you're counting number of chairs, or you're counting number of tables. So it's basically counting numbers or something. It's an integer. It's a whole number. Okay. Now, for example, the height and the weight, they're not integers, right? Because your height can be 9.6 or whatever, like, right? 173.4, right? Where you have that, you see that 173.4, right? Right now, this is not an integer because it has that 0.4 in it. Well, if it's only 173, that is an integer.
Oh yeah?
Yeah. Okay? So when we're talking about integers, we're talking about something that does not have that decimal part.
So it's just a number with a decimal for the most part.
It's a number without the decimal.
Okay,
That's
positive
right.
or negative.
Positive or negative, and 0 is also considered an integer. Okay? So, the positive integers, so there are numbers that are greater than 0, right? They're whole numbers greater than 0. So they are located on the right side of the number line. Okay? And then negative integers, so they're numbers that are below 0, and they're located on the left side of the number line. Okay? So, consider the number negative 33.5. Is it an integer?
No.
No, because
Decimal.
there is a decimal.
So if it has a decimal, it's just another number?
It's not an integer.
It's not
a number, but it's not an integer. So a number is every single thing. Every number you can think of, we call it a number, right? But when you're specifying an integer, right, that means you're talking about numbers that do not have a decimal. Okay? So let me give you an example in the Korean word. So let's say we have objects, right? Objects can be anything in this room, technically, right? Could be a table, could be a chair, could be a cup, could be anything. But the minute I specify and say a chair means something that you can sit on, right? It's a physical thing with 4 legs that you can sit on. So right now, a chair is an object, but it's not, but a table is not a chair. You see what I mean? So now I went into more specific things.
Yeah.
Okay? So same with the integer. Integer is a number, but it has a it specifically says that it doesn't have a decimal in it. Okay? Other than in math and in math class, where do you see negative numbers?
Accounting.
So that's when you're in debt? When you're in debt?
Yeah.
Yeah. When you're in debt? Yeah.
When describing temperature also.
Temperature, right? We have negative temperatures outside. that temperature,
Probably.
okay? See if you guys can think of other, a number line is very important because it helps us locate our numbers. Where are they? Are they bigger, less than, greater than? It helps us locate them, okay? So a number line, as you can see here, it starts with the 0 in the middle, positives are to the right of the 0, and then the negative are to the left of the 0, right? So when I'm looking at, positive 4, for example, positive 4 is greater than 1,
3.
right? Is greater than 3, it's greater than 2,
Is that 0?
it's greater than 0. Now which one is greater, 4 or 8? 8 would be greater because it's to the right of 4, right? But when we're talking about negative numbers, which one would be greater, negative 8 or negative 4? Negative 4 is greater, right? So you're higher up if you are negative 4 than if you are negative 8. So what I want you to think about negative number, I want you to think about, oh, I owe this person this much money, right? Correct? So let's say if you owe me $8, right? You owe me more than if you owe me $4. Okay? So negative 4 is greater value than negative 8. So let's look at the numbers below and then let's rank them from lowest, smallest to largest.
Write it down or tell you?
Now let's start with, you guys want to tell me and I can write. So what's the small?
Minus 18.
The smallest number is negative 18. Okay, let me tell you what the difference between negative and minus. When the number is negative, when the number has that negative in front of it, we call it negative number. Okay, so we say negative 18. When I'm subtracting, I say minus. Okay, so if I have this, so 8 minus 4, I say minus. If I have this, I say negative 8 minus 4. Okay, because in this case, I'm doing an action. I'm subtracting, I'm minusing. Okay, in the negative case, so negative 8, that's a negative number. The value of it is a negative. Okay, so negative 18 is the smallest. What else? What's the next one?
Minus negative 8.
Negative 8.
Negative 5.
There's one.
Negative 5.
There's negative 7.
No, shoot, there was 2, right?
There's
7,
negative
7.
Okay, then
And negative 5.
negative 5.
0.
0.
0. 1.
1.
10.
10. One more. 20. Okay? So going from the smallest to the largest, negative 18 is the smallest, and okay. Now moving to adding integers. When you're adding two positive integers, the answer is a bigger integer, right? So if you have $3 and then now you have an extra $5, how much do you have in total?
8.
8. So when I have 3 plus 5, I'm gonna get 8.
The negative, we have to count back.
Oh, that's the wrong one. That's the wrong spot for it. Sorry. What was your question?
No, we were doing earlier that other one. Yes.
I'll just let you explain it.
Yeah, I will get to that. 12 plus 7.
19.
19. Okay? So you see how the answer is greater than the other two numbers. Okay? Now, if you add two negative integers, the answer is a small integer. So I have a negative, and then plus another negative. Do you see that? So negative 3 plus negative 5. So if you think about the number line, you're at negative 3, and then you're adding negative 5 to it. So in which direction are you going to move? To the left, right? So you have to move this way because you're adding a negative number. Okay? So it's like you owe me $3 and now you borrowed another 5. How much do you owe me now? Okay? So if I move from negative 3, so that's going to be negative 4, negative 5, negative 6, 7, 8. Right? So the answer, so again, it is going to be 8, but in this case it's going to be a negative 8. Okay? So what I did is I still added my integers, added my value, the 8 and the 3, the 5 and the 3, but I kept the negative. You guys get that? Okay? How about if you have negative 4 plus negative 7?
Negative 10.
Close? The left. Negative. 7 and 3 makes 10. 7 and 4 makes 10. Okay. You see how I have a plus and a minus right next to each other? Right here? I can rewrite this in an easier way. Okay? So I can write this as negative 3. What happens is when you multiply positive and a negative, you're going to get a negative. Okay? So it's going to be negative 3 minus 5. So these two together change to a minus. What's negative 3 minus 5? Negative 8. Negative. The sign is very important because let's say if I have negative 21 and I say 21, and if you ask me, what's the temperature outside like, and it's negative 21 outside, but I say it's 21 degrees, what are you going to do? You're going to go outside without your jacket, right? You're gonna think it's summer, but it's negative 21 outside. So when you're talking about numbers and the number has a negative, make sure that you mention that negative because it's very important. It's a totally different number. Okay? Negative 6 plus negative 12. How do I write that?
Negative 18.
So the answer is negative 18.
Oh,
But
how'd you write it though?
yeah,
Negative 6 minus 12.
that's correct. And properly set too. So negative 6 minus 12. Do you guys get that? Okay? Easy? Okay. Now, when two minuses are beside each other, it's the same as adding. This is called the snap rule or subtracting, and negative is like adding a positive. You guys don't have to remember this whole rule. Just remember that if you have negative times negative, you get a positive. It's like, you know, when you're saying, I'm not going to school today. What does that mean?
You're going?
Yes. Right? So two negatives makes a positive, but they have to be multiplied together. Okay? So when you say not after each other, that means it's positive. Okay?
Get this one exactly. What's the word? So,
So you have negative times negative, right? So you're saying 3 minus negative 5.
It's not times though, it's...
They are multiplied.
Is
That negative and the negative,
or-
the negative and the negative, they're actually multiplied together.
Oh, that's the rule then.
Yeah. But then, because they're multiplied together, they make a positive. Okay? So, because they're right after each other. They have to be right after each other. Okay? So that makes it a positive, and that makes it an 8.
the first, no, it's because the other one's
This one?
adding it, and then the next one's subtracting it.
That's right. So it's like plus and minus, right? When you multiply positive times negative, you're gonna get a negative. Okay?
So the first number is a positive, and then it's
Madam?
positive minus
Madam?
negative
I have a
5.
question.
Sorry, just 1 second here. Go ahead.
It's a positive 3
Yeah.
minus negative 5.
That's right.
Okay.
That's right. But because it's a positive 3, I don't have to put the positive, right? So if it's a positive 3, you can't just write it as 3. Okay, we don't write it. Yes, here. Yes.
Next question, you solve on the number line, so that it will be more clear, but I can solve, no problem.
Yes, but I just want them to get used to writing it without the number line.
No, I'm.
Yeah, I know what you mean. I know what you mean.
Number
So-
line will be more clear.
What is happening here?
It's just when there's two negatives, right?
They have to be right after each other.
Okay. I just want to get this into my head, right?
Yes.
It's just screwing me up.
Two negatives right after each other. What do they make?
Positive.
Positive. So how would I write this sentence?
Minus 9 plus 3,
Negative 9
plus 3.
plus 3. Huh? You guys get that? The negative comes with the 9, so it has to stay there. And then because there's two negatives right after each other, it makes a positive. And that makes it into negative 6. Oops. This happens too often, you're gonna get used to it. Are we okay with this?
Only he speaking, other people are not speaking at all.
Well, she stayed, but I just can hear her, or can
Because everybody must.
Nicole's talking, but I can only see her lips moving. And then Shala said words. Jamie is the quiet one. Okay, so this is what's happening. If I have a number line, and I have this sentence here, right? So I have 3 minus negative 5. So that's 3 plus 5, right? If I start at 3, and because I'm adding, which way do I move? I move to the right. So that takes me to the, sorry, to the 8. Okay? Now, if I have the previous one, let's say if I have negative 3 minus 5, what do I do? So if I'm starting at negative 3, and I'm subtracting 5, which way do I move?
To the right.
If you subtract.
I thought two negatives you always end up adding.
Yeah, but that's right here, right?
Okay.
But in this case, negative 3, take away 5. Where do you move?
To the left.
To the left. Okay? So when you have negative 3, take away 5, you're going to end up with negative 8 because you're going to start here and then you're going to move to the left. Okay? What if I have this? What do I do? It's in the corner. 1 plus negative 3. What do I do? Where do I start and where do I move?
So you start at the 1,
Yeah.
this one, and then you would,
Can you change these two signs that are after each other? The worst thing you can have in math is a bulky equation. okay? This is too bulky, how can I make it simple?
1 minus 3.
The 1 minus 3, that's right, because remember that if there are different signs, right, positive and negative, it makes a negative, right? So you're gonna start at 1, and where do you move? Because you're subtracting 3, which way do you move? To the left.
You go up to minus
So you
2.
go 1, 2, 3, so that's your answer, negative 2. Okay? Are we okay with this?
Yeah.
Good.